find out what's going on. Get involved. Change things from the inside. Make a difference. Take pride. Multicultural at its best. The Luisa Marshall Show. Coming up.
Happy New Year, everybody. We welcome 2013 with a new segment. All new episodes to celebrate the new year. Today and next Monday is a casual discussion of views, experiences, and solutions, recommendations with regards to important matters, issues, and existing problems that affect some members in the Filipino-Canadian community. Bullying, scams, harassment, bounce checks, credit card schemes. Has this happened to you or to your loved one or someone you know? The procedures and laws here in Canada are so much different than in the Philippines. There is help, there is a way to take care of these issues through due processes. Stay right there. Join me and some very important members in the community. Let's talk.
I was actually a victim of bullying, and at the same time cyberbullying, right?
Yes.
If somebody else, on the behalf of the suspect, threatens the person to drop that charge, they can actually be charged with obstruction, which is a separate charge.
We have a very important topic to talk about. Bullying is one of the worst forms of abuse. And for me, in my opinion, it has gotten worse now than before. I have my friends here today to help me out to discuss this very important topic about bullying and cyberbullying. And I'd like to introduce to you my wonderful friends, my guests. And to help with the discussion, Dave, right over there. Dave Dickson. I had him on the show before, a multi-decorated retired Vancouver cop, and is now the Supreme Commander of the Community Center at Downtown East Side. I like your title, Dave.
The kids get a kick out of it.
They love it, right?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
If you're going to choose that title anyway, right? Might as well go for the biggest, baddest one.
And of course, the last minute we had my wonderful friend Francisco, also known as June Cortes, who is also a tireless Filipino community patron. In other words, he donates projects, activities to advance arts, culture, and to empower individuals. And also, he specializes in banking and finance, which is one of our topics today. And not to forget, my wonderful good friend right here, Maevn Hauser. And Maevn is one of the individuals in our community that has donated a lot of your time in arts, culture, everything. Musical pop?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. And today he also helped me out with our wonderful set. Look at this. Beautiful. Thank you, Maevn.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. Bullying. Let's talk.
Okay, so bullying or cyberbullying is actually a very broad or complex issue. There are many factors to consider why it is existing. So, bullying is also associated with browbeating, hectoring, intimidating, overpowering, discriminatory, slandering, defamation, to hurt or frighten others. So, as you can see, there are so many victims of bullying worldwide. When I did the research about bullying, I was actually overwhelmed because there are 13 million who are dying because of bullying each year.
13 million?
13 million. And one third of all teens ages 12 to 17 and 1/6 of children ages 6 to 11 have had mean, threatening, or embarrassing things said about them online.
Wow.
Okay, and then 10% of the teens and 4% of the younger children were threatened online with physical harm. Then 16% of the teens and preteens who were victims told no one about it. And then about half of children ages 6 to 11 told their parents, and only 30% of older kids told their parents. And of course, preteens were as likely to receive harmful messages At school, 45% as at home, and 44%. Then older children receive 30% of harmful messages at school and 70% at home. Then 17% of preteens and 7% of teens said they were worried about bullying as they start a new school year. Then 8% of those affected by cyberbullying try to commit suicide. So there are so many. If you see why is this really happening, right? Worldwide, not only here in North America, not only in Asia, it's worldwide
It's
now.
worldwide.
And if I want also to ask, of course, our co-panelists, what are the sources of media? Why do we have this cyberbullying? What does it affect?
I think now in this day and age, back in the day, bullying was sort of a bigger kid picking on a smaller kid so that he could take that smaller kid's lunch. There's usually something that they want to get out of it, whether it be they have an insecurity or just want to take someone's lunch. In this day and age, though, with technology and everything, I think it's become even easier to bully and to be bullied because of social media, because of cell phones. I remember when bullying started with cell phones, with texting.
yeah.
Now we have Facebook, we've got Twitter, social ridicule. But I think it's always stems down to the bullies trying to get something out of their victims in one form or another.
Any resolution to this? I mean, you're saying 13 million. That's a lot.
Each year.
Each year.
It takes a lot of effort and a lot better work on the parents' part, the schools' part for certain, because most of this occurs in the schools because the schools have the children for 8 hours a day. But I say with the advent now of Facebook and a number of other venues for kids to do this, I mean, you can be anonymous and you can terrorize other kids, and that's the biggest part about it is you can be anonymous. And years ago it's just they had a chat room, and that's going back 10, 15 years where kids could talk to each other, but you didn't really know who you were talking to. That was bad enough. Now you've got Facebook and a whole bunch of other venues to do it in, and that's the key is that they can say whatever they want and they can get away with it. So I think the parents have to do a better job of talking to their children, and the schools have to get more involved. And even the kids in some of the schools are organizing groups to do something about this, and I think the schools have to recognize these kids that are doing that and build on that. And the government's got to step up to the plate too.
Yeah, because we all know that there's a lot of awareness already on bullying and cyberbullying for many years. The government has spent quite a bit of money on this, on a lot of projects. But is it working, Dave?
It's working to some degree, but it's getting worse. So I think that's what they have to
Because
recognize.
technology is faster.
Yeah. They have to recognize that it's getting worse, and they have to seize the opportunity with some of these kids that have formed groups, and they have to use them and give them funding, organize them, help them where they can. Because I've been really impressed by reading some of the young children that have gotten involved in organizing groups within their own schools. And if I was in power, I would certainly be meeting with these kids and giving them whatever they needed to take the message. You take a small group of kids and you make it a big group. And I think that's what they have to do. So I think I'm optimistic, but it is getting worse. So they have to step up to the plate.
And at the same time, actually, there are factors that influences actually bullying. First is the family. We must consider also, we all know that charity begins at home, right?
Exactly.
And the most people that influences us starting in our own place. That's our security, right? Our comfort zone. But the thing is, sometimes too much restriction of our parents affect us. So, for example, inside our house, we're prim and proper because our parents are too strict. But when we go outside, that's the time that we bully somebody because we want to prove to them that we want to overpower them, that we are somebody. So, and they will actually be frightened, right? Then the next one that affects also is, of course, media. It is the biggest factor that affects bullying. Why? Because, for example, this talent shows. Why do we have to show in a national TV or international television that there are people that doesn't have talent, but still we actually make fun of those
Exactly.
people. Why? Because of ratings. And yet, we will actually see those judges commenting.
Yeah.
I think these judges should set an example because there are younger viewers who are actually watching.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
These are people trying to get into a career, and so I think it's constructive criticism, and I think that's what they're there for.
Exactly.
Whether they're nice about it or not, I think that's a whole different thing than bullying.
Exactly.
We're talking about young children picking on somebody because they're overweight, because they have a limp, because of a physical disability or something like that.
Yes.
And there's nothing good that comes out of it. Some people actually get pleasure, I think, from picking on people. And so that's the problem. So that's quite a different story from somebody on a TV show.
Perhaps the best example is like us.
Yeah.
I was actually a victim of bullying and at the same time cyberbullying, right?
Yes.
And also you, Luisa Marshall.
Oh,
Not all-
yeah.
We all know that Miss Luisa Marshall is also actually doing good in the community. We also have some people that are actually also in our Filipino community thing, like Narima de la Cruz, Elena Aikenhead. We have also Nelly Van, who are actually just making good things for the community, trying to uplift the community, right? And yet there are people who we used to know trying to say that they are against bullying or cyberbullying, and yet they are actually behind those bad deeds. They are behind those scripts on Facebook or on text saying, blah, 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 and even actually on emails, right? Mm-hmm. What can we do about these people? But there are people who are actually believing in them.
But I think on the side of the victim, I think what we need to do is teach people how to empower themselves. If you're a target of being bullied or cyberbullied, you have to, before you react, think about the situation. What am I getting myself into? What kind of a situation am I in? And so you can make the proper decision. Do I need to go to the authorities? If I do need to go to authorities, which authorities? Is it the police? Is it teachers in school or whatever? I think we need to tell people that being a victim is one thing, but there's always something you can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of different methods. I mean, bullying is bullying, but there's different methods that people can use. There's different reasons why people do it. And it really affects all ages. It doesn't matter if you're, right now, I mean, the big focus is on the youth because that's what you see in the newspapers. But I mean, there's certainly elderly people that get bullied too. Mm-hmm. So I mean, and I think every time you see something, say a high profile case when it's in the paper, there were signs leading up to that when somebody actually takes their own life. Once it comes out in the open, then it's tragic, but there's actually signs that led up to that. So I think we have to be better at recognizing those signs, and getting the help to the person, whoever, they are before it happens.
What processes can they take? Let's say there's a really, really bad case of bullying. What do they do?
First person would be to their parents. Whoever's
Yeah,
looking
you
after
have to
them.
talk to their parents.
Or
And then
a
the
family
parents, they
member,
have to
yeah.
do something about it.
The parents have to take it from there and take it to the police for sure. If they're concerned enough about the bullying, if it looks like that may cause danger to somebody, then certainly go to the police. And the school. I would contact the school and make sure they're aware of it and see what they're doing about it. I think the schools have to do a lot better job, at dealing with some of these bullies.
But in a lot of cases, a lot of the victims are actually afraid to report it because
Yes.
they're afraid of what could happen to them, right?
But I think that's what I said about there's certain signs when somebody's being bullied. Their grades go down in school, they're missing school, they're withdraw, in themselves. They're not as outgoing. And I think if it was my own child, I think I would recognize that something was going on in her life.
What would be a good way to get them to open up, though, and try to explain what they're feeling?
You just really have to have a good communication with your child, and recognize something's wrong. Maybe they have a best friend or somebody that they trust enough. Sit down and talk to them. And that's really what. And then once you find out something is going on, then you have to do something about it. Report it to the school, report it to the police, whoever it takes, and deal with it in some way.
What can adults like us do against cyberbullying?
Well, if you're being bullied, let's say on Facebook or by text, by anything, you have to, for starters, hold on to that record, make a written record of it if you can, And if
So you got to
think
make a
you're-
record of it.
Yeah, if you get in texts or voicemails or any kind of a record, if you can print it out, if you can maintain a record of it, on your phone or computer, and if you think there is a threat there, endangering your life or safety, then you have to take it to the police. I mean, if you're dealing with an adult, it doesn't matter what kind of a setting, whether it's sort of a racial thing, an ethnic thing, senior abuse, if you can make a recording of it, take it to the police, and hopefully they'll deal with it from there. But you have to tell somebody about it to make it stop.
If bullying has been reported to the cops, to the policeman, or RCMP, or Vancouver Police, or to the authorities, or even to the school, so what is expected? What is going to happen to the bullies?
Hopefully the school would deal with it. If you've got a written record of some kind on your computer or phone, the school, I'm sure, especially with all the publicity around this now, the school would act on it, and I would think that the people would be, at the very least, expelled from the school, I would hope. And if that's not the end
Expelled
of
from
it,
school.
yeah, if that's not the end of it, then I think I would take it to the next level, and that would be the police.
Oh,
Yeah, because then, if they continue after that point, then it almost forms a criminal harassment charge. And then you can report it to the police, and they'll act on it. You don't have to be threatened, with death, to lodge a complaint with the police. You can actually charge somebody with harassment. And if somebody is phoning you on the phone, leaving messages on your phone, if they're leaving messages on your computer, messages on Facebook, that's a form of harassment, and they can be charged.
Don't go away. We'll be back. Okay, we're back. We're back here with my friends. Okay, Maevn, do you have a question?
Whew, we're getting hot.
Yes, it is. It is.
What if, for example, you've already complained to the police and they are continuing to harass you?
If there's a complaint laid with the police and they're investigating a person, and let's say that person's being charged,
Yeah.
with harassment, if somebody else on the behalf of the suspect, threatens the person to drop that charge, they can actually be charged with obstruction, which is a separate charge. So if anybody interferes with that investigation or threatens a victim in any way, shape, or form, they can be charged with a separate offense called obstruction, because they're interfering with that investigation, and that's a fairly serious charge.
So if a victim goes to the police, what kind of evidence do they need to present? I mean, what would the police be looking for? Do they, because I'm sure they won't be reading everything, right?
Well, if there's an ongoing form of harassment, whether it's phone calls, text, you've got, phone recordings, you've got Facebook, printed stuff you printed out off the computer, and it's got to be an ongoing form of harassment. Not one or two calls wouldn't constitute a harassment, but if you've got weeks of ongoing phone calls, Facebook, threats or bullying, that's enough to take it to the police, and that shows basically it's an ongoing harassment, and they will investigate it, and in some cases, if it's warranted, charge the person with that. Now, if anybody interferes with that in any way, shape, or form, they can be charged separately with obstruction.
We have some reports that other people support bullies, too.
I guess they turn a blind eye, right? They don't, they know
Yeah.
it's happening, but they just ignore it because it doesn't affect them. So
Yeah,
would
that
that be in
happens, yeah.
fact them condoning bullying?
That happens, but you wouldn't be able to,
To prove
to
it.
charge anybody with that or
Yeah,
or
you
prove
cannot
it.
charge anybody with
Because
that,
I
right?
think that's just human nature. People don't want to be involved, unfortunately, because it doesn't affect them. But the thing is, it could affect them at any time.
Well, have you been bullied?
Years ago, yeah. Not for many, many years. But certainly when I went to school. But it was different back then. I don't think you've seen much of that at all.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was, it was a different form. So I think most people just laughed it off. So I can't say.
How did you take that?
I think I just laughed it off. It sounded more silly to me.
Really?
But now it's completely different, because now it's a groups of people, picking on one person. And
Like the whole world
Yeah,
sometimes.
that's a whole different sort of
Yeah.
story. And now, it's just society is different now, because the pressures for the kids, I think, you can't compare them to when I went to school. It just wasn't the same pressure. Now, there's so much the family structures are different now, because people are both working. So years ago when I was raised, the parents were both at home. The dad worked, the mom was always there, the families were together.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got both families, both parents working,
Yes.
to try and pay the bills, so the
Yeah.
kids aren't getting that quality time with the family. And that's a huge thing.
I was talking to somebody last night, and she was telling me that the most important thing to fight bullies actually is your family.
The family.
You have to
Oh, for
have your
sure.
family, your friends for support. And you were actually right when you said that it should be the family and school. Because
that-
most
that-
of the time, a lot of, and also it doesn't only happen in schools, it happens in workplaces,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
A lot of workplaces around.
And in communities.
And in many communities. And it's ongoing. There's so many things. We can go everywhere with this topic, but but like, have you been bullied?
Oh yeah, several times actually. Because during our younger years, right, we used to call teasing times. We don't call it bullying, right?
Oh, yeah, teasing.
We call it you're
We
a
forgot that
teaser,
word,
right?
teasing.
You're a teaser.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
teasing me, right? In Filipino we call it tukso, right? Yeah, I've been actually bullied because they used to say that I'm gay, right? And then I'm, of course,
Wow.
because
Yeah.
they also judge me physically because perhaps I'm thin and I'm not that actually have this fair complexion before. During also the time that I used to actually go out and do singing competitions, the amateur singing competitions, and if, for example, they don't really like you, blah, 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 they still actually tease you, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you actually fight back, you struggle hard. That's why I made it here. But I thought, okay, when I first came here in Canada, I was really had this tremendous bullying by a certain fellow man, Filipina. It's a David and Goliath thing here. It's a war between David and Goliath. I'm the David and they're the Goliath.
It's quite common for new immigrants to be preyed upon by people even within their own community. I mean, the kids, for example, when you come to Canada, the kids are targeted by gang members.
Because I thought that these people are actually one of the foundation, one of the pillars of this community, right? So,
When people get scammed, they blame themselves, so they don't want to tell anybody because they're embarrassed. And that's what,
when they actually see this episode, I'm sure this will actually create war. So what can actually a person like me do?
certainly, I would organize the community myself, to take a stand against these so-called leaders. They have to step up to the plate and protect, I think, their community, because, I mean, it does involve them. It involves their kids. It may involve their grandchildren, down the road.
I personally think community leaders who know that things like this are going on, I think they're just as guilty. They're contributing to the bullying.
This message is for all the community leaders and members of the community. It's pretty simple. When you see bullying, don't just stand by. Instead, stand up. Look for some ways that you can be the one to help stop bullying, scams, and fraud. Please join us again next Monday for more discussion with Maevn Hauser, Dave Dickson, and Francisco Cortes. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next Monday. Please don't drink and drive. Don't text and drive. Be kind. Let's stop bullies. Bye-bye.